Hello everyone, this is Chris with StickerFab and welcome to my install video of the Wolfbox G900 Tripro bumper model onto my 2025 Toyota 4Runner SR5. When I first got this vehicle in late February, I bought a cheap no-name camera because I thought I would save a little money, and it worked fine for about 5 months. Then all of a sudden, I noticed the display was getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until you couldn't see it at all. Now, it was still recording front and rear video, but you couldn't see anything. You could hear the button clicks, but that was it. So now we're basically upgrading this to the ultimate digital mirror on the market. So I'm not exactly new to Wolfbox. I have been a dealer in the past, and this is a G900 installed in my wife's Land Cruiser that was originally on my Bronco Raptor. So just a little heads up, this video is very long and very thorough, so if you're worried about getting this installed in your vehicle, go ahead and watch it one time straight through. For those of you that were just looking for some tips, you can watch this as you install it onto your vehicle, and you can fast forward through any parts that you don't need. So there's going to be a lot of things that come with this kit. Of course, you're going to get your main camera, you're going to get your GPS, you're going to get your front bumper camera, rear bumper camera, trim tool, license plate mounts, zip ties, little wire holders, an AC adapter, but make sure that you get the hardwire kit if you don't get the dongar that I'll be talking about in a few minutes. You get rubber straps, which allow you to strap this over your OEM camera. However, I do recommend for the Toyota 4Runner that you get the 190 model arm. These arms really make your install look like a factory option. All right, so here's the G900 Pro triple camera, and it comes with this insert which explains all the features like the lens, the little fasteners, and all of the ports on this device. What I'm going to do is remove those fasteners, since I'm not going to use those fasteners, those rubber straps that go over your original camera, and I'm going to use this replacement arm. So I need to take all of these out and swap it out for the mount that comes on this. To do that, I'm going to remove these little rubber pieces, and under there you will find a Phillips head screw that we'll use to attach the back plate of this onto this. All right, so here's the Model 190 OEM bracket, and I've used this on the Toyota Land Cruiser, and I've already used it on the 4Runner with the other camera. And the reason why I chose the 190 over the Model 1 that I've used in the past in the Bronco is because of how large the covers are behind the mirrors in the Toyotas. If I used the Model 1, it would work, however, the view would be very obstructed by those plastic covers, so this drops it down just a little bit more. So you will be reusing those 4 screws that you just took out of this, and you'll be using it with this back plate right here. You'll screw those in right there. In general, save all of this stuff, including the rubber straps that come out of this, in case later on down the road you change vehicles and it doesn't have an OEM style mount available. You'll be able to revert back to this universal setup. All right, and now we mount the arm to the base plate, and just make sure that it is aligned the correct way. This is the camera upright, and this will slide on to your windshield like that. Quick recap, there are the 4 original screws that came with the mirror, and then the 4 screws that were supplied with the 190 arm. They actually provide 5 just in case you lose one. However, don't lose those original 4 because you will need those. And all the extra parts I've just thrown back into this box for safekeeping in case I roll this over to another vehicle at some point. All right, a quick observation. The Wolfbox comes with a lot of accessories when you compare it to some of their competitors. It does come with this double hinge, and this double hinge helps get the camera in the right spot. Instead of just being able to hinge right there, you're able to double hinge it, and you have more adjustability. And all I will need to do to swap these out is take these 2 screws off, and then we'll take off this single hinge and we'll screw on this double hinge. And I'll show you how this works in a second. So right here on the original camera that I installed here, you can see how I had to buy this aftermarket hinge to make kind of this double hinge effect. This is an acrylic piece that I sell on our website at StickerFab.com, and I'll show you why it's double hinged. Let's make it like it only had 1 hinge, and let's kind of tuck it right in there. Let's close the hatch, and then we'll roll down the window And here you can see it's tucked really far up there and it's not close to the glass. So this will kind of get in the way. What you really want to have it is as close to the glass as possible. You don't want it to get in the way of the hatch. So you can see the hatch will close right there, but it won't touch the camera. And then we'll close this back up. And it doesn't impact the actual glass. Of course, in the 4Runner, when you're trying to mount it high, there is the issue of this windshield wiper blade doesn't quite reach there. I think I'm going to try to add some glass treatment right here and see if the water will kind of pool away from this area to give me a clearer view. I thought about mounting it on the outside, but you can see all of this area is still dirty. Of course, you can mount it here, but that area could become dirty as well. So I think I'm going to keep it mounted up high so I get a nice view out the rear. And then once it's done raining, I'll just roll the glass all the way down, roll it all the way up, and you can see how that rubber seal kind of cleans that area up pretty nicely. And of course, the rubber seal I'm talking about is this one right here. All right, in the headliner, you can see these plastic fasteners that hold that up. And I have a hole in this acrylic plate that will let you push that fastener straight through the original hole, and then this has adhesive on it, so it keeps it stuck to this headliner really nicely, and then we can screw in that double hinge right here. Wolfbox does supply 2 little screws, which I'm using there and there. Be careful not to lose those, really easy to do. They also give you an adhesive pad that you could use instead, but I've elected to use those 2 tiny screws. I will set this up to the right angle, and then I will tighten down the rest of the screws. Remember not to over tighten these or you will strip out this plate if you're using the one from our website. You will probably not know the final position until you get the camera fully installed, turned on, and then you'll realize if this is a little bit crooked, left, right, up, or down, so you can do those final adjustments. Once you get this fully installed, I have run the cable out to this side, and then I've actually put it behind that little mount so that if it gets pulled this way, that'll kind of save it from being pulled all the way out. It'll hold it down just a little bit more. I am electing to run this wire all the way down the passenger side and up there. All right, so there are going to be a couple areas that we need to get into, and one is behind here. Since we're using a OEM style adapter, I'm gonna have to take the original arm off, and even if you're not doing that and you're strapping it over the OEM mirror, you're going to have to get back here to kind of route the wires through the center of this. So to remove this plastic cover, don't pull it out. You want to slide it down the windshield basically. So just put some pressure in there and push down on the other side as well. To remove this little center portion, you do pull it towards you though. To remove the OEM arm, you will need a Torx screwdriver, but to put on this aftermarket one, you will just need a Phillips screwdriver. And these mirrors, they just pull up, and then you just install it back over that OEM mount. I've tightened that Phillips screw down, and now we have the new mirror mounted. And what I like about the OEM style replacement arm is that it puts this camera in a position to where you can still use your sun visor and it won't clip it. All right, so now we're looking at the hardwire kit for this Wolfbox, and obviously that's how you get power to it. Over here you have a bunch of ADA fuses, and since this is a universal kit, they provided all of these, and your vehicle will probably use one style of these. The purpose of ADA fuses is to protect the original fuse just in case this grounds out, and I've never had one of these mirrors ground out, but for peace of mind, you will probably want to use one of these. Honestly, the most likely culprit that would cause this to ground out is that you place these wires somewhere where it just started to move and the trim just kind of rubbed away that sheathing, and all of a sudden it grounded out. All right, so the fuses inside the 2025 4Runner and the 2024 and up Tacoma are right here underneath the glove box. The way you get this down is you push these clips, There's one right there, I think one right here, and this will just drop down. The problem with this is that these ATA fuses, once you push them up in there, you won't be able to get this cover back on. Let me show you the fuses that you would use. You'll see an accessory power fuse and a 12-volt constant. And then you would run the wires up, back behind here, through the pillar, up and over to the camera. We are lucky enough that in modern Toyotas, a lot of them have an OEM dash camera available, and because of that, they made a 5-pin harness that will give you ground, constant, and accessory power, and it lives right here. So the way you get this down is get your fingers right in that carpeted area in the back and pull straight down. It's gonna probably be harder to come out than that. This one came out pretty easily because I've pulled it down a few times. Do not pull it down from the front because these tabs just go in there and hinge from that location. So if you put force on them, you'll essentially be trying to rip them off. All right, now I'm sitting on the passenger side looking at the driver's side, and here's the harness that I'm talking about. You just pull this rubber thing back. I already have something plugged into it, but you'll see that there are 3 wires. 2 wires are right next to each other. It's easier to see on this side. 2 wires are right next to each other, and then one is down a little bit, and about 1 pin, I think, from the outer edge. That right there is your ground wire. The wire on your very outer edge and right next to the other wire, they're kind of paired up right there, that is your constant power. And right here it is red. Over here it's not red. And that wire right in the middle, that is your accessory power, that wire right there. So you can see how it'd be much easier just to throw this entire bundle up there and tap into those wires right there. Let me throw up a picture of some Positaps. That is what I would use. I would take these and just cut those off, expose the wires, and then use Positaps to run them into those wires back there. If you think those wires are too hard to reach or you want a little bit better solution, I might add some pigtails to the site, and they would connect into there, and then it would have 5 wires running out this way, and then you could just take that out. You could solder it onto this and make a plug and play harness, or you could use a Positap on those lines and they would be much easier to reach. For my install, I am using the Dongar Pro though. It is a plug and play solution from Dongar Technologies, and it has this 5-pin harness. It of course only uses 3 wires, and it just plug and plays up in there. Connect it to the box and then you're good to go there. So with this power option, we are actually giving the mirror constant power. So the normal parking mode on these cameras and many cameras is where they'll be in a very low kind of power consumption state, and if the vehicle gets bumped, if it detects that shock, it will start recording. Now on the Dongar Pro, you can keep the camera on the entire time, so it will continuously record. And yes, the power draw on your vehicle will be much higher than that normal parking mode. So they have 3 settings on this thing, and if you look if you push it all the way over here, there's ignition. Now it will only go on and off when you turn the car on and off. In the middle, we have the infinity symbol, and that means it will record until the battery voltage goes down to 11.8 volts. So it'll still allow your vehicle to be restarted, but it will try to continue to record as long as possible. Of course, if you use that setting a lot, you will start to drain your battery, and your main battery may not be as good as it once was. And that just means that you'll be putting your battery under a lot of strain and draining it a lot of times, so you'll be cycling that battery. And personally, I like to keep it in the 4-hour mode over here, so that will record up to 4 hours after the vehicle has been turned off. Of course, it still has low voltage protection, so that, let's say my battery is already down a lot, and at the 2-hour mark it reaches 11.8 volts, it will cut off. So 4 hours is a good amount of time. Let's say you're going to the gym, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to Walmart, you're going wherever. It's probably going to record that entire time that you're there. The Dongar Pro does come with a variety of short cables. I think I lost my original one, so we have this one. The Dongar Pro does have a USB-C port, so we just need USB-C to USB-C to get this G900 Pro running. And I'm going to hide all the extra wire. There won't be much if you're using the ones that they supply behind here. The Dongar Pro does come with a variety of short cables. I think I lost my original one, so we have this one. The Dongar Pro does have a USB-C port, so we just need USB-C to USB-C to get this G900 Pro running. And I'm going to hide all the extra wire. There won't be much if you're using the ones that they supply behind here. All right, so now we're going to start routing things since we have our power set up. This is my GPS module. I have it on the dash and it seems to work really well right there. You want to point it straight towards the sky. I have run the wire all the way up the pillar and over to the middle so it can reach the camera. When you're tucking that cable behind this A-pillar trim, if you can't get the wires down there deep enough, you can take off these caps to that handle and then you just use I think it's a 10 or a 12 millimeter socket. You take those bolts out and you'll actually be able to pull that plastic trim down, and then you'll be able to stuff those wires down so they remain out of sight. The next wire I'm routing is the rear camera wire. You'll see that it uses a USB-C connector, and this is what the camera connects to. Then there's this wire, which allows you to use the reverse lines with the camera. This is a base SR5 model vehicle, and it already has reverse lines in the OEM backup camera, so I'm not going to be using this. You would connect it to the reverse signal wire, the wire that powers your reverse lights, and then when you reverse, the lines could come on your camera. That wire is really long, so the first thing I've done is kind of straightened it out and removed all of the tangles from it. All right, so the GPS wire and this camera wire I've routed up behind here, and I bring them out right here, and then they go down here and they will exit that little hole in the trim piece you saw earlier. Plug that one in right there to the camera slot. It's the only other USB-C port on this. And you can see right there the GPS plug is right next to it. All right, since we are routing this along the top, you're gonna have to pull the rubber door seals down. You just grip it in there, start pulling them down. And that will let you run the wire behind the carpet. So I'm just running it behind the headliner right here. I've pulled the A-pillar back just a little bit, and I'm stuffing the wire through there so that I can get over to this side. All right, now I've got that wire on the other side of the A-pillar. I'm going back to the B-pillar. I'm taking the end of the piece and routing it right behind that B-pillar, and then I'll pull the rest of the wire straight through. And now that I've pulled that wire all the way straight to the back, I will just tuck this wire in here behind the headliner, and then in the very end, I'll put this rubber trim back. So I've pulled this trim back and I just gave it a couple quick jerks. I think when I installed the last one, I lost one of the fasteners right there, but it tucks in real nicely still. Just be careful when you're pulling this out. You don't want to lose those fasteners. I'm going to go ahead and connect that rear camera. If you want, you can turn it on and make sure that you're getting a signal. And then I'm going to run this wire up and through here and tuck it all the way up in here. Last time I stuffed a bunch of wire right here. However, it was really hard to get out and it might get tangled with the seatbelt a little bit. So I'm going to try to stuff any extra wire right here in the headliner. All right, so just pull the headliner down a little bit. You can give this rear panel a quick jolt and then run the wire behind the headliner straight down into this gap and out the front of it. And when I say out the front of it, I stop right here and then I just start tucking it into this window trim. It's really easy to conceal it behind that trim right there, and they do give you this little trim tool in case the wires are showing a little bit. You can just push them back down there. And moving forward, you just tuck it behind the C-pillar right there. and gather all that extra wire right there. You can go ahead and pop this back in. All right, so all that extra wire is right here. I was a little bit more patient this time, and what I did is I ran strands. I just ran it back and forth, looping it right there. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's quite a few strands in there. Went back and forth a few times. Now all that extra wire is up in there. All right, I didn't check this earlier, so let's make sure we're getting a signal from that rear camera. Let it boot up. It does take a few seconds. I think it gives you a warning that it takes 8 seconds for the rear camera to boot. Ultra low battery, please connect to power supply. Okay, now we are getting that rear signal. Great. So I can put those little rubber seals back up. This part is pretty easy. You just push them right back in there. Make sure that they're covering up the headliner. Good to go. All right, now the G900 Tripro is pretty awesome with its specs, with the Starvis 2 Sony sensor, which will be an improvement over the G900 that I have in the Land Cruiser. However, the standout feature is this front camera. So to be honest, I am getting pretty excited. This install is almost done. What I think I will do is mount the camera right here and just flip the image inside the cabin. There's a nice spot right there where I can mount it. It's up high, so it won't be as dirty as this lower area. There's where the stock camera is on this vehicle. And I think on the Bronco, it is up here, so it's not crazy to have cameras up a little bit higher than down here. Toyota seems to like to keep them really low. All right, I'm going to test this mounting way out, and I will leave some comments in the comment section if I had to change it around. But to mount it up there, it is not in a good position to get the supplied screws in there, but they have provided 3M. It's over 80 degrees here, and it will be warm for the next 72 hours while this forms a bond. So I think it might do the trick. I'm going to clean this area off, and then I'm going to mount it just with the 3M right there. All right, so that 3M is super sticky. However, if you are in a cold climate where the temperature is going to drop, let's say below 55 at night within that first 24-hour period of you sticking it on there, I would not use this as your mounting solution, or I would just wait until it gets warmer to mount it if you're just gonna mount it with 3M. I've elected to kind of move it forward as far as possible because this bumper will get in the way of the view if we have it further back. And I've centered it up and pushed down really hard. I can tell that is pretty sticky. So I'm pretty sure it will stay there. As soon as I plugged that in, it did register on the G900 inside the cabin. I've placed this box right here just so that you can get a taste of that front view. You can see the box right there. And what I love about Wolfbox is that they allow you to basically go up and down on all their cameras, and on their rear camera they actually allow you to zoom in. So I have it set to being able to see that far down and this far up, and everything else will be caught by the normal front-facing camera. So some people will consider this one of the most difficult steps, and it's not really that hard. I've already run wiring inside the cabin for these KC Era 3s. And I ran it right through here, and that's where you'll want to run your camera wire. The way you get through this boot is go ahead and make an incision on the top. I actually used an X-Acto knife and I pushed it through there. Just be really careful. You kind of want to shoot it off center because the wiring harness right there just goes straight down and inside the cabin. So you want to kind of jut off to the corner. And then ideally, if you had like a wire hanger, you could use electrical tape and tape anything that you want to pass through there on to that wire hanger and just shove it down there. What I had available to me at the time for this big thick wire was a very long screwdriver. I shoved it down there and then I grabbed it from the other side. Let's go check out where it comes out. So of course we're on the driver's side. There are the pedals. Right back here you have to move this carpet back and you'll be able to see that rubber gasket right there. and then you'll see that main harness going through the center, and you just push everything off up there to the side, and you start pulling it through into the cabin. So just like the wires on the other side, I've run that connector up through there into this big area and then back down through the headliner, and it will come out the middle of that trim. It's this connector right here. All right, so I've run that wire up on the headliner, over to the A-pillar, pulled the A-pillar back just a little bit, got it behind there, took this rubber seal off, and I ran it all the way down here. The wire's tucked inside there. Pulled this back just a little so I could get it over there on the other side of that, and then I will pop this trim right back in. Back under the hood, we're going to have to take this panel off. All you do is push these little clips down. It's really easy. And then you pull these guys out. Before you use them again to put this back in, you just push these all the way through, and that resets them. And then you put it down in the hole and you push it flat like that. So save these, make sure you don't lose them. So underneath that panel, you have your horns, which we've changed out to the JDM premium horns. I also have some additional wiring right here for those grill LEDs. And you have your active shutters right here, and you don't want these wires to get in the way of that. You can see those active shutters out the front. So I've run this wire right here along the front, and then one of these grill tabs right here, there's actually a hole right there, so you can reach through the active shutters and grab that wire and keep it forward of those shutters, and it will come out right here. Right, so I've connected my camera wire. I will run it right out this side. I'll put that cover back on, and now all this extra wire I will bundle up and zip tie. All right, and that's what it looks like, all tucked away. All right, the first thing we can do here is put this back in place. All right, had to put the camera down. That's nice and secure. All right, so tilt the mirror down, get all of your wires right in the center, and then just the same way you took it out, reverse that, push it up against the windshield, and then with both hands, one on each side, push it up with even pressure, and it should clip in both sides at the same time. All right, so make sure you have enough slack in those cables so this trim piece can get back into there. Then you slide the trim piece down and then push the top back. Dongar has this little mounting bracket that has 3M on the back of it, and then you just clip in the module to it. I've elected to put it right there so I can still play with that tab. Adjust your mirror, and you're all done. So you can see right there, when the camera's off, you can use this as a normal mirror. If the glare is too much for you, remember we do have matte screen protectors that help dull out that glare. However, when the camera is off, if you have a matte screen protector on there, it will not act as a normal mirror. All right, basic functionality of the camera is pretty simple. Scroll left, scroll right to get through your camera views. On all the cameras, you can go up and down by tapping and then sliding your finger up and down. And on the rear view, you can actually zoom in and out. I like to keep it all the way out. Just remember that vehicles are a lot closer to you than it appears in this camera. So always look at your side view mirrors when you first get this and kind of realize how far back vehicles are versus this view. To get into all the settings, just click your screen and then you can go right here to settings, and there are tons of them. One thing that I did real quick was I turned on daylight savings time to get the time right, but I have other videos on some of the settings, like setting your parking mode in case you are hardwired and not using something like the Dongar. If you guys have specific questions, you need some help with this, maybe I can make some more videos, just request them in the comment section below. Oh, and one last thing, when setting up your rear camera, you want to push it back as far as possible. Of course, you don't want it to impact that lift gate, but you want to be as close to this glass as possible, or you'll see these defroster lines, and you'll also get glare from stuff inside the vehicle if this is far away from that glass. So if you guys appreciated that install video and or you want to pick one of these up, please use the link in the description below. That is affiliate link. I do get commission off of that, and there's a bonus coupon in there that you can use that will give you an additional amount of money off. Even if you don't pick one up, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the bell notification icon for the latest and greatest things I'm coming out with for the 2025 and up Toyota 4Runner.